I'm Jeff Hampton with the Hampton Law Firm. Welcome to our YouTube channel. Today I want to talk to you about the statutory rape laws in Texas. What is the Romeo and Juliet law? When does someone know whether or not the statutory rape laws apply and when they do not? We're going to talk about that here today. And if you wait around till the end of this video, I'll also give you a free ebook, What to Do If You Have Been Charged with a Crime in Texas. Okay, let's jump right into this. Now, one of the things that we want to talk about is let's identify very quickly what are the statutory rape laws in Texas. And you can't even begin to have that discussion until you start talking about the age of consent. Okay, so every state has a little bit, it's very similar. There may be a few small nuances and differences. But statutory rape generally occurs when an adult engages in some type of sexual conduct with someone under the age of consent. Now, in Texas, the age of consent is 17. So any adult who has sex with someone age 16 years of age or younger may be charged with statutory rape. Now, there are exceptions to these rules, but I think it's important to understand. We're going to go over what some of those are here in a second, but it's very important to understand the age of consent is you must be under 17. So you're talking about there, anybody 16 years of age or younger, they do not have the ability to consent to sexual activity, okay? So how is statutory rape charged in Texas? If someone is facing a rape charge that applies to this particular set of facts, they're going to end up being charged with one of three types of offenses normally. One is aggravated sexual assault of a child. This is when there is actual sexual activity that takes place between an adult and a victim under the age of 14. Okay. Number two is sexual assault. Here is some type of sexual activity, sexual penetration with a victim between the ages of 14 and 17. Finally, we get to the third offense, which would be indecency with a child, which is sexual conduct involving a victim under the age of 17. In that situation, there doesn't have to actually be penetration. It could still be considered statutory rape if there was improper touching that took place, okay? Now, what are the exceptions? Well, the first that most people should know, the first exception to this law is marriage, okay? So clearly, if you are an adult and you are legally married to someone that is 16 years of age or under, sexual conduct is lawful in the eyes of Texas, okay? Children over the age of 14 may get married under Texas law with parental consent, all right? Now, you have to be 18 to be married in the state of Texas without parental consent. So that's the basic law as it relates to the defense of marriage. Pretty good defense if you're married. Now, the second option on that is what's called the Romeo and Juliet law, okay? This is what people refer to as the close in age law. It's an exemption. So what that means is, even though it's not necessarily embedded into the law of the state of Texas, this is a valid defense in the court. Because think about how this happens. How many times will you have an 18-year-old senior in high school dating a 15-year-old freshman or dating a 16-year-old sophomore that's in the same school, right? Same high school. And of course, we know that there may be some type of sexual activity that would take place between high school students. And in this situation, this particular exemption exists in order to protect that potential relationship. So if you're no more than 3 years older than the person that's involved in the sexual conduct, your charges may be dropped. And people say, well, how do I defend that? Because we have represented people in exactly that situation. Well, if you're facing a charge like this and that 3-year rule of the Romeo and Juliet law applies, here's how you do it. If you're facing that charge, it's important that this be presented to a grand jury before it's indicted. If we can get that exemption placed before the grand jury can do what's called no-bill your case. That's a way of basically exonerating you from the charges that you're currently facing. Now, what are the penalties for statutory rape in Texas? Well, if you're charged with aggravated sexual assault, that's the most serious, the most severe of any rape charge that's out there. It's a first-degree felony. The range of punishment for aggravated sexual assault is anywhere between 5 to 99 years in prison and up to $10,000 in fines, okay? The sexual assault and indecency with a child can be both second-degree felonies, punishable by anywhere between 2 to 20 years in prison and up to a $10,000 fine. And perhaps what's worse about all of these charges, all of them would subject you to having to register as a sex offender under the sex offender registry. So I say that to say this: you need to make sure that you defend yourself in this situation. And one of the best defenses to this, quite frequently, you may have an alibi to show that you were not involved in the alleged conduct that's being brought against you. Perhaps there was a false accusation that was brought against you, and there's some evidence that can be presented to show that as well. And there may have also been some evidence that was obtained unlawfully or improperly by the police. There's a list of different types of ways that we could potentially defend the case, but obviously every case is unique. And I would encourage you to make sure, if you're facing a charge like this or you have a loved one who is, it's important to make sure you contact an attorney and that they answer all of your questions so that you can be proactive with your criminal defense. So I say that to say this: if you have questions, maybe you've got questions about a similar type of situation, don't hesitate to contact the Hampton Law Firm at 817-877-5200. We'd be happy to answer your questions, and I promised you if you waited around to the end of this video, I'd give you a free ebook, What to Do If You Have Been Charged with a Crime in Texas. Click the link right down here below. We'll be happy to send it to you. And thanks again for joining us today, and I look forward to seeing you on our next video series.